I didn't set out at YouTube. I worked at Spotify, Google, Instagram to cause these problems, but these are the unintended human consequences of these things. And I'm very concerned if we don't have our eye on those consequences in the age of AI, those consequences could end up being worse than the ones that I helped instigate in the first round of social media. My name is Dr. Eric Solomon, and I'm here at the Data for Public Good conference to talk about what it means to mitigate burnout in the world today, along with my colleague Heather. In my normal life, I run a company called the Human Operating System, where my mission is to put humanity at the center of everything, including business. I've been running that for about 5 years out of my office in New York City. This topic is really important to me because as much as there are all of the internal factors that we deal with whatever we're doing in any organization that contribute to burnout, the external factors of the political landscape we're in, and then of course emerging technology and everything that's causing in terms of anxiety seeps into our systems. And for many of us, we sweep it under the rug without realizing that it's chipping away at our well-being. And so it's really important to focus on what it is that's creating balance in our lives today and how that might contribute to potential burnout so we can stop it before we get there. Really, the key message that we want people to walk away with is that people have agency and control over this. And we call it the kind of this idea, if you think of, we think about low-hanging fruit all the time. Well, we take it a step further and we call it making the jam. It's the stuff that's on the ground that's easy to pick up that you can do tomorrow to help mitigate that burnout. So we want people to really understand that it's within their control to take small atomic little actions to help with the burnout today. Yeah, so the actions really revolve around what we call our wellness wheel, and we'll go into a lot more of that, but we want people to take away specific actions. Like one thing that's so easy to do is to take a look at your calendar, your busy calendar, and eliminate one meeting a week from that calendar that you absolutely don't need to have, and that helps mitigate feeling like you have control over your time. Another really simple thing to do, and it sounds so silly, but we forget to do this in our always-on virtual worlds, is to take 20 minutes and have coffee with somebody in real life. Get outside, have face-to-face interactions with people in a way that doesn't feel forced, but in a way that feels natural and organic to who we are. This topic's really important in this moment in time because we've, really for the last almost 2 years now have been at the dawn of the new AI explosion, and everything's coming at us. It's everything all at once, all of the time at this point. And it's hard to keep up with everything that's going on because we know that we have to implement and do something with this, but it's causing unforeseen, unintended outcomes on our well-being and on our behaviors. So it's critically important now because Moore's Law used to say we're going to innovate every 2 years. Well, now it's every 2 months. Soon it's going to be every 2 weeks. Then it's going to be every 2 seconds. And then we're really going to be in it. So we've really got to take a look at what's going on now and take a step back and mitigate this burnout. Yeah, staying optimistic and hopeful and curious in this time, it really, and we'll talk about this when we give our talk, but for me, it really is thinking about this, what I think of as this line of humility and this line across a page. And at any given time, we're either above or below this line. And it sucks when we're below this line because that's when we're committed to being right and we're closed and we're defensive and we think we're right. And, that doesn't work very well in personal relationships. It doesn't work very well in business relationships. So we try to be above that line. Instead of saying that we're committed to being right, we're committed to learning. We're not closed, but we're open. And we're not defensive, but we're curious. So I think for me, maintaining that daily of how do I get above that line to keep that curiosity going helps me keep optimistic even when things look dark. And sometimes they do. A better future for me really requires, and this comes off of just listening to a panel around this, but I'm not exactly sure that we have many functioning institutions in this country, from education to politics to healthcare to business. And I think a hopeful future means reimagining what these institutions can look like, because all institutions are how we cooperate to get things done that we can't get done on our own. And right now they're failing us. And so I really hope for not a dismantling, but a reinvention of the institutions in this world today. I'm focused on the institution of business, and I will not stop until I change this institution. Yeah, there's one additional thing I've just been thinking a lot about in terms of, you think about where we are in terms of population saturation. We're almost 8.4 billion people on this planet, all of us emitting just an ungodly number of signals out in the world all the time. And I think this is really, especially at the face of dealing with anything with Gen AI and all of the stuff that's coming at us, we're losing a sense of who we really are. And so one of the things that I'm most passionate about that I'm working on is what it means to be out of sync and what it means to navigate identity in a world that loves labels. So here we are at a time where it's more important what flag you fly and what you post than it is to figure out who you really are. And so I think this really ties into the wave of technology. It's so easy to get lost in the tech, so easy to get lost in the hope and the details of that, but we need to return back to who we actually are. And that relates to the work that I do with the human operating system. You've got to build your human operating system, you've got to install it, and of course you've got to update it when it goes out of fashion. So for me, this is one of the most central things that's facing us in our time today, is figuring out who we are in the midst of things that are facing us to tell us that we don't know who we are. So another reason why this work is so important to me is based on the career that I had. So when I first started, I co-founded a team at YouTube back in 2010. And the internet in 2010 was everything. It was Nyan Cat, Charlie Bit My Finger, Double Rainbow. It was a pretty clandestine, amazing place. Fast forward to the time when I ran global marketing for Instagram, and I had already destroyed democracy and done other things like cause a tremendous amount of social addiction among teens, where we've got some teens spending up to 18 hours a day on TikTok. I'm not even up 18 hours a day, and this is where we're at. We've got a political system where 70% of voters feel like they can't even have a conversation with somebody that's on the other side. And we're at a point in time where 1 out of 4 men in this country claim to have no close friends. So I see all of these unintended outcomes. I didn't set out at YouTube. I worked at Spotify, Google, Instagram to cause these problems, but these are the unintended human consequences of these things. And I'm very concerned if we don't have our eye on those consequences in the age of AI, those consequences could end up being worse than the ones that I helped instigate in the first round of social media. Yeah, so one of the other things that's really central to this idea is a spectrum that I thought about, not just with my own life, but within the pursuit of business overall, which is if you just think of things on a unidimensional spectrum, there's on one hand, more. In business, this is ROI, productivity, and efficiency. In my own life, it was different things, but it was this kind of thoughtless pursuit of more, more, more. And I think those are the lifeblood of business, and that's a lot of what our life, but it comes at the cost of the other end, which is better human outcomes for our life and better human outcomes for people. So in my own life, I pursued more at the cost of better outcomes. I see business pursuing more at the cost of better outcomes. So my whole platform around the human OS to put humanity at the center is just simply to shift some of that spotlight from more to better.